I believe that cinemas are here to stay. I really do. I think, yes, things are becoming more remote and, people are staying at home more and streaming has changed the industry for sure. But I do think cinemas are here to stay. I think it's a special experience that I think is like ingrained in our DNA that has existed since, the beginning of film and even preceded that when people used to, go watch Gladiators. Like, you know
Right,
what I mean? Like, I
right,
think it's
right.
just existed for a long, long time. But you have a different insight because you work, at IMAX. Do you guys believe that cinemas are here to stay, or do you think it is like a dying, uh, you know, industry?
Absolutely here to stay. And we saw that right after the pandemic. And obviously, there was that 1 year, in 2020 where it was challenging for anything that was where you had to be around people. But after that, we definitely saw growth. And I think that's the exciting part is and everything that we've seen in data that people wanted to return to shared experiences. And that's something that they were missing from a communal aspect of it. They've
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of alone time. And and going back to what movies do is that they inspire you, they transport you, they motivate you. I think that's something that people seek out. Because also, if let's say one's not traveling, or let's say one can't afford to do X, Y, and Z, going to movie theaters is actually like a very great value add, right? It's like such a value pack because you're going there to experience being able to travel to a different period, a different place in the world, being able to be placed in situations that maybe you've always wanted to be in, or maybe that you've never experienced, that you're buying a ticket to, and you're on this getaway for 2.5 hours or so.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
escape.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I remember seeing a study that there was like a direct correlation between your self-esteem, your just self-belief, and your happiness and the amount of communal experiences that you attend. So like obviously there's a huge drop in like
Right.
there's increased in depression during the pandemic. Everybody was isolated by themselves.
Right.
These shared experiences, even if it's with strangers in a movie theater. So I have
Right.
like a friend, shout out to Tally, but she just goes to movie theater all the time, even if it's by herself. Like I
Yeah.
remember she was going to watch a BTS concert
Yeah.
in a concert by herself because she's a huge BTS fan. But it's just she just and I was always asked her. I tried to use her as like in a focus group, and I was like,
Well,
right, like why do you
exactly.
keep going? Why do you keep going back? She's like, oh, I just love it, fucking love it there. Like it's incredible. It's
It's an
amazing.
escape,
Yeah.
right?
It
Well,
is.
it's a shared experience plus the fandom. You're around strangers, but you're not around strangers because you already have a shared interest
Mm,
in that topic, in that film, in that piece of music. And so, let's say if you're a Swiftie, you're sitting next to someone who's singing the same lyrics, and you're like, oh, well, I know a Swiftie likes X, Y, and Z. So, by, deductive reasoning, you're like me. It's very interesting
Right.
yeah.
because it's a shared experience plus the fandom, and you're essentially bringing strangers together, but they don't feel like they're strangers
Right.
in that environment.
So speaking of that, I want to bring this back a little bit to where we started,
Yeah.
and being an ethnic executive at companies like IMAX. Did you grow up and growing up in California, which is a really diverse place,
Right.
like you said? I mean,
Right.
your high school was like all ethnically
Yeah. Yeah.
diverse
Right.
people. Um, did you feel that when you were entering, your work life? And how so? Was it something that you felt was an obstacle that you had to overcome, or something that you felt set you apart and gave you an edge? What was your experience with your culture, with your background as you were entering the workspace?
Growing up, we always have an idea of what that executive or what that successful person would behave, look like, act like, dress as when they enter that room. And it's interesting as I climbed through the ranks and progressed in my career, is I always had this idea of like one should behave as X, Y, and Z until you realize you just sort of are. So let's say when I walk in a room, now I see other people who are younger in the marketing organization. They're like, well, you're my viewpoint of what a vice president is. And I think that's an interesting, I would say, psychological process or journey one has to go through to go, well, wait a minute, I actually don't need to behave like everyone else. If I'm, I'm Filipino and let's say I want to bring lumpia or egg rolls to work, that's okay. That's what I do. And
Right.
so I think it's bringing in a little bit of that culture. I think for me, it's been mixed because it's being ethnic and also being gay. So
Yeah.
mixing those two things, it's like, oh, there's actually a lot in here.
Yeah.
But I never actually, I remember I always told people, I said, I want to always be known as Andrew and what I've accomplished, not Andrew, the Asian guy, not Andrew, the gay guy, but just Andrew.
Yeah.
And so, yes, everything else is part of me, but that's not the clear identifier of, just what I should be categorized as.